June 22, 2026. A small limestone cave, 8,500 meters up the north side of Mount Everest. India had just ordered the mountain's most famous body brought home, and the name on the paperwork was not the name the world had believed for 30 years. He has been a mile marker, a shelter, and a warning. And for almost all of those 30 years, the world was certain it knew exactly who he was. A young Indian climber named Tsewang Paljor. That certainty was about to collapse. But then, everything changed. The part I find most extraordinary about this story is that the truth was never actually hidden. It had been sitting in plain sight for 29 years, in a journal article almost nobody read, waiting for a government tender document and a DNA test to drag it into the light. This is the brutal June update on the Green Boots mystery. Welcome to Tourist Tragedies. To understand why this update matters, you have to understand what Green Boots became. He is not just a body, he is a coordinate. He lies fully clothed in a rocky alcove at roughly 8,500 meters, close to the cruising altitude of a passenger jet, an altitude where helicopters cannot safely fly and where the human body is actively dying with every minute that passes. A red fleece is pulled up over his face. His lime green Koflak boots point toward the route. For 30 years, climbers pushing for the summit have radioed down to base camp with the same 3 words. We've reached Green Boots. Some rest beside him, some shelter with him from the wind. In 2006, a Sherpa named Tsewang Paljor ducked into that cave to escape a gale, brushed away a light layer of snow, and found himself face to face with the most famous of the roughly 200 bodies that remain on Everest. The part I keep coming back to is this. An entire generation of mountaineers built their summit timing around a man whose name, it turns out, they may have had wrong the whole time. So, who was the man in the cave supposed to be? To answer that, you have to go back to the spring of 1996 and to a 6-man team from the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, led by Commandant Mohinder Singh. The ITBP is not a climbing club. It is the force that patrols the India-China border, 3,488 kilometers of some of the most brutal high-altitude terrain on Earth. These were serious professionals, men who lived and worked above the clouds, and they had come to Everest chasing history, the first Indian ascent of the mountain from the north, the Tibetan side. Among them were 3 men whose names matter to this story. Subedar Tsewang Paljor, the senior man of the group. Lance Naik Dorje Morup, 47 years old, a veteran. And Head Constable Tsewang Paljor, just 28, born in 1968 in the small village of Sakti in Ladakh, a young man who had joined the border police and found himself on the roof of the world. For them, the summit was not a holiday. It was national pride, professional honor, and the culmination of careers spent in thin air. Their families waited at home for a radio message. Success would have meant their names in history books. For you and me, a summit attempt sounds like an adventure. For these 3 men and the country behind them, it was everything. And the transition from triumph to tragedy took less than 1 night. May 10th, 1996. 7 climbers left for the summit. The mountain had other plans that day. The same day, on the opposite side of Everest, the storm chronicled in Jan Krakauer's Into Thin Air was about to kill climbers on the southern route. But the northern story unfolded quietly, almost unnoticed by the world. 4 of the 7 Indian climbers turned back at around 8,500 meters, beaten by weather and exhaustion. Paljor, Morup, and Paljor kept going. At around 3:45 in the afternoon, the trio radioed base camp with the words every expedition dreams of. They had reached the top. They left prayer flags, ceremonial scarves called katas, and pitons as offerings. But thick cloud and zero visibility later raised a painful question. Had they truly summited or stopped roughly 150 meters short? The Himalayan database, the sport's record keeper, registers the summit as valid. It hardly mattered, because as they turned to descend, the blizzard arrived. Hurricane-force winds. Temperatures near minus 30 degrees Celsius. A full night trapped in the death zone. The next day, a Japanese team found the 3 Indians still alive on the ridge, critically frostbitten, moving like ghosts. None of them made it down. One of them came to rest in a small limestone alcove at 8,500 meters, curled up as if napping, and the mountain slowly claimed him as a landmark. In the years that followed, a name attached itself to the body: Tsewang Paljor. Reporters repeated it, documentaries repeated it, climbers repeated it. It was reported often, confirmed never. Rumors occasionally surfaced that the body had been moved or buried, but climbers kept insisting he was right there, right where he had always been. And by the spring of 2026, the story seemed completely settled. The name was Paljor. The cave was his grave. Everyone agreed. Then came June of 2026. Indian authorities quietly released a tender document, a formal invitation for specialist companies to bid on a mission. And The Guardian got hold of it. On paper, it reads like logistics. The team must include at least 6 Sherpas who have summited Everest multiple times. They must provide evidence of the mission. They must deliver the body to Delhi by October. Bids were due by June 29th, backed by an earnest money deposit of nearly 1.3 million rupees. A 40-day operation, by one Nepal-based operator's estimate, launched into the teeth of monsoon snowfall. But buried in that bureaucratic language was a sentence that stopped the mountaineering world cold. The document names the climber known as Green Boots, and the name is not Tsewang Paljor. It is Dorje Morup, the 47-year-old veteran, the other man who died on that ridge that same day. The tender states that the identification was confirmed through a prior verification process, and then says nothing more about what that process was. Veteran American mountaineer and Everest chronicler Alan Arnett admitted the sudden change of identity was a mystery even to him. 30 years of certainty, overturned in one line of a government document, with no explanation attached. What exactly was that verification? Hold that question, because the answer is the key to this entire story. To understand what this mission is actually asking of people, you need to understand what the death zone actually is. Above 8,000 meters, the air holds only about a third of the oxygen available at sea level. Your body cannot acclimatize. It is dying, cell by cell, and your brain dies with it. Judgment slows, simple decisions become dangerous puzzles. Now, imagine doing hard physical labor up there. A body that has been freeze-dried into the mountain for 30 years is not a body anymore. Locked in ice and gear, it can weigh up to 200 kilograms, roughly the weight of an upright piano, with limbs frozen solid at awkward angles. Sherpas who do this work sometimes face a choice no one should face. A limb that cannot bend must sometimes be amputated, because there is simply no other way to move the body down rock and ice. For the Sherpa teams, who are predominantly Buddhist, this is not just physically brutal. Their tradition holds that bodies should not be desecrated, ideally not even touched. Arnett estimates a team would ask around $150,000 for the job. 40 days, monsoon snow, no helicopters. That is the price of bringing one man home. And then the DNA results came back. Reporting in the week after the Guardian's story filled in the gap. The verification the tender hinted at was forensic. DNA testing, carried out in the lead-up to the recovery mission. The Indo-Tibetan Border Police confirmed the match. The body in the cave is Dorje Morup, not Tsewang Paljor. 30 years of Everest lore, wrong. Every documentary, every article, every climber's story that named Paljor, wrong. And the cruelest consequence lands on one family. If Morup is in the cave, then Paljor is not. His body is still up there somewhere, still missing. After 30 years, his family's long vigil does not end. It starts over. The reaction has been complicated. Arnett says he is glad they are bringing him down, while calling the task ahead gruesome, his word for what those 6 Sherpas will face. Guy Cotter, the New Zealand guide who coordinated a recovery from Everest back in 1997, put the dilemma plainly. Returning a body brings a family closure, but only if it does not put the living at undue risk. And there have been recoveries where more people died trying. It is, he says, a very thin line. For Morup's family, success in October would mean something profound. The chance to finally perform religious rites that have been impossible for 3 decades. For Paljor's family, the same news means fresh grief. And for the Sherpas taking the contract, it means 40 days of the hardest, heaviest work on Earth. When you lay the sequence of events in order, a clear picture begins to form. Factor 1. The boots. Paljor was known to be wearing green koflok boots, and that single piece of gear became the entire case for his identity. Factor 2. Repetition. Once one report named Paljor, the next report cited the first, and the next cited that one, until a guess had hardened into a fact. I call this assumption fossilization, a plausible first guess that gets buried under so many layers of retelling that everyone forgets nobody ever checked. Factor 3. The counter-evidence was there all along. Back in 1997, expedition member P.M. Das wrote in the Himalayan Journal that the body was Dorje Morup, and even described the second summit group encountering Morup between the first and second steps, moving slowly, refusing gloves over his frostbitten hands, struggling to unclip his carabiner while a Japanese team helped him along the ropes. The expert's account and the popular story pointed at two different men for 29 years, and the popular story simply shouted louder. Factor 4. Geography. At 8,500 meters, nobody checks identification. The one place on Earth where a famous body could lie in the public view for 30 years without verification is exactly where he lay. It took a government deciding to bring him home, and the DNA testing that decision required, to finally force the question. That is the answer to the open loop from the top of this video. The name on the paperwork wasn't wrong. The world was. So, here is the verdict. Green Boots was never a mystery of missing evidence. He was a mystery of nobody checking, a 30-year assumption that survived because it lay 350 meters below the summit of the one mountain where facts freeze solid. Now, the question that actually divides climbers: do you think India is right to bring Dorje Morup down after 30 years? Or should he be left on the mountain he never came down from, simply moved out of sight, the way so many veteran climbers say they would want for themselves? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one,